gripping and dramatic. I've got to tell for when a movie's going to be bad. It's when they show too much in the preview. I mean, this is a politically charged movie by admission and acclamation of all the people involved, including the public. And I first heard about it, I guess, from people in my right-wing relatively silo. And what I heard was the lefties in the UK had shot this piece of left-wing propaganda, and they were patting themselves on the back for how great it is, and they were going as far as to show it in the public schools as like a PSA. And it was a joke, and it was terrible, because in a period of time when Western Europe and England specifically is suffering a whole bunch of violence that seems to be coming primarily from immigrants that have come there over the last, I don't know, since George W. Bush destabilized the Middle East, or maybe before.
Yeah.
And in the face of that period of time, here comes the left writing a gripping morality play in which the real problem that the UK is facing is toxic masculinity and Andrew Tate, and what are we going to do about these enraged white boys? Hello, welcome to Haman Nature. I am Adam Haman, and I'm happy to be joined by my buddy Charles Melchin. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on.
My pleasure. Longtime fans of the show might remember Charles because I had him on to talk about the genre of movies in which the heroic teacher inspires the legion of poor students into achieving greatness. And specifically, we were talking about the Dead Poet Society because I liked it, and Charles just drug me through the streets shouting shame, shame, shame because he thinks that movie's really dumb.
Holdovers was great, though.
Holdovers was great. I agree with you there. And I have Charles back today to talk about movies again.
I am the on-call curmudgeon.
Yes, I needed a curmudgeon because I'm a little conflicted, a little ambivalent about a movie or short series I just saw, so we're going to talk about it. The movie is not a movie. It's a 4-part series called Adolescence. It's available on Netflix. It was filmed in the UK. And before we dive in, I think I'll just play the trailer. Sound good to you, my man?
Absolutely. Go for it.
It's gone.
Police! What are you looking for? You're making a big mistake. He's only a kid.
Dad, I haven't done anything.
He's a good kid. Jamie, I want you to listen carefully.
What's going on?
I'm going to start off with asking you.
Do you know a girl called Katie Leonard? Yeah? Describe each other as friends, then.
Is she dead then?
Why would you ask her?
So do you think it would be okay if we speak about it? I haven't done anything. You're a good dad, a great dad.
He hasn't been found guilty. He's been accused. What have you done?
Banged by a girl, you sausage.
You're not getting it.
What am I not getting?
Dad, you're not reading what they're doing. It's a call to action by the manosphere. 80% of women are attracted to 20% of men. You must trick them because you'll never get them in a normal way.
We've done nothing wrong, have we?
Hey!
Look at me now!
It's crazy what your brain tells you to do when you're a kid.
Gripping and dramatic. Right off the bat, I have to say,
Yeah.
I've got to tell for when a movie's going to be bad. It's when they show too much in the preview. And I must admit, I believe they showed quite a bit too much in that preview. So
It's difficult once you've seen the movie or the whatever to turn off all that knowledge when watching a trailer and be like, I don't know, are they giving what?
Because it could be just jump cuts and you don't know. It's true. Yeah.
Right. And this is very different than a whodunit.
Exactly.
By admission of the creators themselves, they didn't try to make a whodunit, and they pretty much give you the answer by the end of the first episode.
Yeah, with the exception of the first episode. Let me set the table, as it were. It's so funny. We all start to think of, I mean, this is a politically charged movie by admission and acclamation of all the people involved, including the public. And I first heard about it, I guess from people in my right-wing relatively silo. And what I heard was the lefties in the UK had shot this piece of left-wing propaganda, and they were patting themselves on the back for how great it is, and they were going as far as to show it in the public schools as like a PSA. You know, like you and I might have heard about not eating dirt or something back when we were kids. And it was a joke, and it was terrible because in a period of time when Western Europe and England specifically is suffering a whole bunch of violence that seems to be coming primarily from immigrants that have come there over the last, I don't know, since George W. Bush destabilized the Middle East, or maybe before.
Yeah.
And in the face of that period of time, here comes the left writing a gripping morality play in which the real problem that the UK is facing is toxic masculinity and Andrew Tate, and what are we going to do about these enraged white boys? And in fact, I think, you'd have to fact check me on this, but I think the claim was that the script was co-written by the lead actor there, who plays the boy's father, and somebody else. And I think it was that somebody else said that he was even inspired by a couple of recent murders. And then when you look into those perpetrators, they sure don't look anything like Jamie, what's his last name, Miller? You know,
Miller.
They look a little more dusky in the facial features, skin pigmentation feature area. So that's what I heard. And I was like, well, I don't need to listen to that or watch that. But then my wife, I was off busy doing something else, and she watched it and said it was pretty good. And so I watched it, and I thought it was way better than the image that was portrayed to me by the right-wing silosphere, even though some of those complaints were justified. And so I said as much to my buddy Charles, and he said, you're all wet, kid. So go ahead. Tell me I'm all wet.
Well, I said that before I'd even seen it.
That's true.
Like I'd seen some of those criticisms, and I think I have as much criticism of those criticisms as I do of the show itself.
Interesting.
I think that those are off base. So I don't know. How do we want to approach that angle of it first, or do you want to approach it purely as art?
Let's start with art.
Yeah.
So, as I was saying to you the other day, off camera, I thought that the show was just really well made, just as a technical thing. I thought the acting was amazing. I'd never seen that lead actor in anything except Boardwalk Empire, where he plays Al Capone.
Yeah.
I thought he was really, really good. And, you know, I was into the story, so I wasn't like, I don't pay attention to like the filmmaking. So I didn't find out until afterwards that they'd done that impressive one shot, one take per episode thing, which seems makes me look a little stupid. But I did think that was cool, and it does show that you have to be a pretty good actor it's not like you're going to give the director 20 takes and the editor will find the best one. You've got to actually come with a pretty good performance.
I think for episodes 2, 3, and 4, they did like 15 takes.
They had to do a few, yeah.
close to 15 takes. The first episode they got pretty quick.
They got it in the second take, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
Yeah, they did like 5 total takes, but they grabbed the second one. And the next they did like I think about a dozen takes, and usually picked one of the last ones they did. And especially most of the one take stuff, it's moderately impressive, but they're not doing huge moves like you see in a lot of other things. The one moment where I'm just like, that can't be. I assumed that it was like Birdman. The
Birdman
movie with,
did that, yeah.
Extremely impressively so. But they did like those sneaky like
fade to black, swap out, yeah.
Yeah, pan across something, and that right there's a cut sort of thing.
Yeah.
When Ryan jumped out the window, and the camera follows him, and then impressively the camera looks back at the window that they just came through, and it's already in good condition. I haven't watched any like behind the scenes stuff, but that maneuver, like of all the one take stuff, that was definitely the most impressive. At the same time, I feel like in terms of art, choosing to go with that theater type of approach of just like continuous, we all nail it, was, I think it undermined the scripts as a whole. I think it would have been far better had they used more conventional editing. I think that there were certain times where they wasted a lot of time. The car ride from the house to the police station,
which was supposed to be just around the corner. Yeah, that was too long. Yeah.
It's not like they focus on anything useful, right? You're not watching this accused murderer's face this whole time of him like thoughts racing through his head. If anything, you're looking at the back of his head as you're watching your watch, and the camera's like continuously panning back and forth. It's like the camera has ADHD and it can't just like chill out and focus on a subject, even in very intense moments. And so I found it a little unfortunate, and I think I think it ultimately I think it undermined the product, the end product. Personally, while it's impressive and the Emmys sure loved it, I think it undermined the final product.
Yeah, I am of two minds. It is for sure true that if you're doing a style of filmmaking just for the sake of showing that you can do it, you have to be sacrificing something from a storytelling standpoint because you're just committed to that thing.
So like that first episode, they get from the arrest to them wrapping up the interrogation in
quick.
60 minutes, right? Like, personally, I haven't been arrested, but I would imagine that process takes a long time. And now I'm more familiar with the American justice system, that to the degree that I'm familiar with any justice system. But I'm just very skeptical that the UK justice system is that efficient at getting someone through the process. From the time that they decide that they need a lawyer until the lawyer is in their pocket is 8 minutes. Like, is he in a vending machine in like the cops like lounge upstairs where they just like punch him out and here he is sort of thing?
And they made a point in the plot to say they had to wait for the nurse, like that was a problem. And they fed the kid his cornies, his cornflakes. He got all of that done in 60 minutes.
In 60 minutes, yeah. But I understand them trying, and I think that this is one of the reasons why people want it to be accurate to true life, because that style with the one take is trying to be as immersive as possible. This is life. You are experiencing this, and we are not breaking away from it. It's not film, it's experienced. Here's the thing. And people want something to be as true to life, and so they're expecting consistency across the entire writing, I think, when you are choosing to use that approach. And so they sort of set themselves up for criticism of, you guys deviated away from what reality is like while trying to pretend you're portraying reality.
Yeah, that's a fair criticism. That said, I think on net, I think the approach worked. And what you were sacrificing in terms of how long it really takes to get through an arrest and a booking and all that, I do think you gain in this emotional, immersive experience. Because that first episode, I was pissed off the whole time and stressed out. For one reason, because I just hate the police. Sure. And them just breaking the door down and pointing the rifles at everybody's face all the time. Yeah. As a guy who studies gun safety, I'm like, what are you doing? Who trained you, you psychopaths? And so I'm just enraged. the handheld, not Steadicam, but the one-shot take thing where they're running around following them. It does ramp up the tension, and that was appropriate throughout. So I take your point that committing like to a technique when maybe that technique isn't in service of each individual scene is like a mistake, but I think for most of it, it worked pretty well.
What's the threat though? Is this accused killer the threat? This like 50-pound child? Is he the thing that we're on edge about? Or
it's ridiculous. Well, no, obviously what's in there is an army of Andrew Tates, and they're all gunned up. And so if we don't come in there like SWAT, well, I mean, I'm joking, but
right, yeah.
I don't know if I've said anything on this show before. Probably I have, but I think the procedure for that police unit is just every single thing we do, we send SWAT.
Yeah.
Like my next door neighbor, the feds came and swatted the house because that's how they serve every warrant. And this was just for a minor computer crime. I don't know how minor it was, but it wasn't violent.
But it's white collar no matter what.
They called they called the adults in the family and said, this is happening, come out because we're going to break in. And they're like, well, why don't we just bring the kid out? They're like, no, that's not how we do this. So they rolled in a tank or an MRAP or something and broke the door down, threw tear gas in the window, and did their SWAT thing with 6 guys, 3 stacked up on each side of a door jamb, and swatted the whole thing. I've got the whole thing on tape. It's ridiculous. And I think we have a paramilitarization problem in policing throughout all of Western society where this is just what they do now.
Well, you need to justify those toys.
Right. And all the manpower and
Yep.
Explain your budget. Oh, well, this is why.
But in this case, they didn't even bother putting cuffs on this very dangerous 50-pound kid.
Yeah, that's so anyway, that pissed me off, and so I thought, as a piece of cinema, if you're trying to evoke emotion in and the whole 4-part series I was pretty emotional about, and I think it's because it was done pretty well. And that's about all I have to say about the technical aspect. I do think these movie types tend to love sniffing their own farts, so I don't, probably all those Emmys aren't deserved, but I was expecting, based on what I'd heard before I'd seen it, just hate this film, and it was made like poop. And that wasn't the case. It was very well made.
Well, and I think oftentimes going in with low expectations, maybe it can work one of 2 different ways. Because we fell on both sides of this coin. You fell one way, and it exceeded your expectations. It didn't exceed mine. I went in low. It stayed low. Even going back and watching it a second time, the first time I had trouble staying awake, and so I definitely wasn't as attentive and picking up on things. Yeah, for sure. The second time, it was easy. It was much easier. I definitely picked up on things that I wasn't catching the first time, and so I did. I'm glad I went back and rewatched it, and so I'm glad that it had an impact on you and gripped you, but yeah, I slipped through its grasp, unfortunately.
Interesting. All right, let's switch over to, I guess, the content of the material rather than how well or not it was made. And I'm going to let you go first. Go ahead and tear it down before I try and build it back up. But I want to set a guardrail because I'm going to make a sharp distinction between the film as it exists independently, with nobody talking about it, and all the ways people have been talking about it.
Correct, because I think both its fans and its detractors get it wrong.
Yes. Because by the time I got finished, we're not getting there yet, but by the time I got finished seeing normies talk about it or left-leaning people talk about it, I was mad at the film all over again. But my point is, that's not the film's fault. So, what did when I came out and said, I think this thing has merit, why don't you give it a watch and we'll talk about it. So what did you think after seeing it?
Well, do you mind if I set the content itself for anybody who hasn't actually seen the series?
We are spoiling the heck out of everything.
At least with the setup, right? So like day one is the kid getting arrested, brought to the police station, and them doing the in-processing. It ends with the interrogation, them showing a film that supposedly, you have to figure it out later, where they show Jamie on CCTV, because it's everywhere in England, stab one of his classmates. The second day, it's the detectives at his school questioning some of his classmates and the staff and just sort of going through the rigmarole there. The third day is 7 months later, and this is it's sort of a bottle episode. It's him, it's Jamie and a therapist,
a psychologist, writing a report for the court.
Correct. She's not there to provide him with therapy.
Right.
She's just there to understand him.
Evaluating, yeah.
Yeah, so it's through a very specific lens. And then the fourth episode and last episode is 13 months after the original crime, when you are with the family. It's the mom, dad, and his older sister on his dad's birthday, and them having sort of living life post Jamie in a way. So for me, right, there's like the highest level of cinema is when like it works on multiple levels, and you can tell that the creators are very purposefully writing something on multiple levels, and the smallest things actually mean something.
Yes.
When he says, do we go banana picking? It's not just banana picking, right? That's chosen for a very specific reason. And it only takes one pin to pop that specific moment. And for me, where I'm just like, I'm convinced the writers weren't that serious about the material they were writing, was everything, a lot of speculation. Third episode is almost impossible to like really analyze through that lens, because it's just them having a conversation and knowing what is and isn't true and looking for true. It was difficult in that setting. But in the fourth episode, so the dad's occupation is a plumber, right? He works weird hours. That's his job. And in the course of this episode, because someone spray paints his van, they need to go to the hardware store. So they go to the hardware store, and he doesn't know the employees. And this hardware store is like 5 minutes from his house. He would know those guys on a first name basis. The moment he walked up to them, they'd be like, Eddie, what do you need, buddy? And that doesn't happen. So I don't think the writers like immersed themselves in the world that they were creating. They didn't think about all the aspects and all the implications of the characteristics that they were assigning to these characters. I think that this is, to me, proved as like definitive evidence of sloppy writing on the part of the right. And so that frustrated me. And they did it to set up the second guy, the Quint guy, who came around the corner and ends up being sort of like an incel sympathizer sort of thing. He's like, I'd totally be on your son's side sort of thing. They did that to set that up. But at the cost of having a cohesive world, I thought. Because when that happened, it sort of broke me out a little bit. Also, like the detective, right? There's two detectives. There's a senior and then the junior police officers. The senior guy is named Bascombe. And in the second episode, they're at the school interviewing different students. And at the very end of it, you end up in a chase scene where Bascombe is chasing down one of Jamie, the alleged killer, one of his friends. His friend's name is Ryan. And he ends up cornering him, right? And in that, it's a very intense scene, and he's like yelling at it. He's like, oh, like, what do you know, sort of thing. And Ryan's like, oh, it was my knife. And, oh, sorry, spoilers. And so he admits to the fact that it's his knife. And the detective's like, oh, cool, book him, Dano. Like, I did my job, sort of thing. But, like, bro, this is a juvenile who doesn't have any like representation there. You didn't read in his rights. Nothing here is recorded, right? This is one of those like postage stamps that isn't actually on CCTV, we can assume. But there's no reason that we're not led to believe that this is on camera or anything like that, even if it be admissible. But it's one of these things of like this one, and he totally pats himself on the back, and they take him off, arrest him, sort of thing. Conspiracy for murder because he owned a knife that Jamie had possession of, and this is just, I don't know, like I don't know if the writers don't understand how, like, what admissibility rules exist, but especially like questioning minors in the UK, there's a lot of very strict rules around that. You can't just go into the court and be like, well, this is what he told me, judge. Like, the kid's lawyer is going to be like, no, he didn't. I don't know what you're talking about. Like, none of that's even remotely admissible. So I don't know. I'll stop there for the moment. If you want to comment on either the hardware store or the police question.
Yeah, both. It's funny. Neither of those scenes took me out of it. Like, working backwards, that's just, some crooked cop doing some crooked thing and behaving horribly. I'm sure that's how they do it.
But he's not portrayed as being a crooked cop.
But they weren't portraying that arrest scene as awful either. That's my perspective, that it's awful and horrible.
Yes. No, this was a heroic moment. Oh my goodness. Isn't it great that Ryan finally got caught? Hooray, let's all stand up and cheer.
Exactly. Or at least got to the point where you could take him in for some more serious questioning or have some reason to or whatever.
But that questioning is going to start at zero.
Right.
Like,
it would
everything
have to.
that was said. Mm-hmm.
But, parallel construction, they have ways of, they don't particularly care that they got the guy in the room for the wrong reason. Now we'll work on finding the right reason,
Yeah. Yep.
But, and then the hardware thing, since it was so close, and that is his job, I mean, I guess you're right, but when I was watching it, I'm just like, yeah, he probably gets his hardware stuff from a plumbing stuff from a more specific place, and he's in the paint department. I just didn't care. But you are right. If he's been living in that area for that long, and that's his thing, and he's in the trades, yeah, they probably would know him.
Yeah.
And the point of the thing, it was twofold. It was to get him out of the house so he could encounter an incel Andrew Tate fan in the wild, and to catch the people who spray painted his car, so he can show that he's got an anger issue that presumably he passed on to his son, and blah blah blah.
On that, so his van got spray painted, right? The very first shot, and that happens. They discover the spray painting on the van in the first 5 minutes of the episode. The first shot of that episode opens inside the shed, and the door opens, and the dad puts the lawnmower and the weed whacker, the trimmer, in the shed, and then closes the door to go about his business. If he just got done mowing his lawn, he would have seen the spray painting on the van. And he lives in an area that rains 130 times a year. He's going to be in the habit of putting his lawnmower away. He's sure as heck not leaving that out.
Wow.
So I have no idea how on earth he mowed his front yard without ever once looking up and being like, oh, that wasn't there yesterday.
I have
Go ahead.
I'm getting a sneaking suspicion that your mother might have had some headaches when she was pregnant with you, and might have taken a little Tylenol.
I mean, I told you I was, yeah, right. But like, and there's a reason that they did it, right? Is they want a reference to the shed.
Yeah,
I like, oh, remember the shed? Remember the shed, guys? Here's the shed.
Well, you said you watched it twice, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. See, I didn't remember that he'd ever been near the shed when the shed became important later.
But so I remember the shed because during the therapist thing, like as soon as the big thought is because they end the second episode on the dad. Right? They do the whole drone shot, the completely unnecessary drone shot.
Right.
Totally unnecessary. Just so it could end on a shot of the dad. And my thinking is they are going so far out of their way to show the dad going to this little memoriam for the Katie, the victim.
Site of the murder.
He must be a very integral part. Like, I'm waiting for some sort of like, oh my goodness, big reveal. Here's how the dad essentially created this monster of a son sort of thing. What sort of skeletons does he have in his closet sort of thing? And so I remember the shed thing when they get to the third episode, and the therapist on her fifth visit asks about his dad's anger issues. And he's like, yeah, he doesn't really like, he's not loving, but like he never hit me. He never abused me. Just tore down the shed one time when he was super angry, and I thought it was funny, and my sister thought it was funny, and my mom told us to go upstairs, sort of thing. And there you don't know whether it's an unreliable character or
Right.
what. So as soon as he says that the first time, like, I'm paying attention, like that, the shed thing I remembered, and then you have the car thing as well. But I'm super in tune with how's this dad expresses anger, and the two times that he expresses his, like, that he gets enraged, he breaks his own stuff.
Yeah.
He doesn't hurt anybody else,
Yeah.
right? He grabs the kid by the collar and shakes him around a bit, but perhaps justifiably so, sort of thing. And that kid, like, pops up so many times. That kid, by the way, rode his bike by their house,
Right.
and then 20 minutes later appears at a hardware store that's a 7-minute drive away from the house. They just happened to go to the exact same place that the family was going. Like, did they know they're going to go to the hardware store, so we need to ride our bikes to the hardware store as fast as we possibly can so we can taunt him there as well? Like,
I think he's also the same kid who was bullying the son of the detective.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of interplay between. It's like a small community, or it's being portrayed as a small community anyway.
He is the Stephen King character, the super prototypical bully that is everywhere. And yeah, he also makes the, like, piggy sound in the classroom when the detective comes in and he says, "That's Adam's dad." Also, I don't know how on earth the daughter would know him, since they're like 4 grades apart. So I'm not entirely sure about that, but also, and this is where I get nitpicky. This I understand.
This right here?
Everything,
not this other
so
stuff.
Well, hold on. Before I even get to this next one's legitimate criticism. The one after that is unreasonable criticism. This one is immediately after the detective shakes down Ryan and gets this inadmissible confession. The next thing he does, he doesn't write a report. He goes and he gets fish and chips with his son, because character growth, right? But if you're hoping to have any sort of record of this, you need to immediately write a report, not just be like, "Cool, book him, Dano. Okay, I'm going to go grab lunch with my son." But they needed to show that he's, like, growing and becoming a better father.
Trying. See,
he's making an attempt.
See, all these things that you read as bad because they're like not, like, good characters wouldn't do this. I thought this was just fine because I thought he was a terrible cop. I thought his partner was a terrible cop. It's definitely a terrible parent, which I think is highly relevant when we get to my points.
I don't think the show wants you to interpret them that way, though. I think the show wants you to believe that detective is one of the best characters in the show. I think the show wants you to think that him immediately after interrogating a juvenile in entirely unusual circumstances, immediately going to grab lunch with his son is a good thing.
We're getting dangerously close to not letting the film just speak for itself and getting towards the interpretation of it, because the thing just is what it is. And you saw one thing and I saw the other. Are you done with your
Here's my unreasonable criticism. So when they're in the van on the way to the hardware store, I feel like a lot of my criticism, right? So things get good. Things are nice, and the daughter, for whatever reason, on her phone trying to pick a song for 3 minutes, can't pick one. So the mom chimes in, "You should play Take On Me by a-ha." And then they have a little conversation about a-ha, and the mom reveals that she used to be in their fan club. Like, she used to be a huge a-ha fan. If you're a big fan, a legitimate, real big fan of a band that's known to be a one-hit wonder, one of the most, like, poster boy one-hit wonder bands ever, by the way, you would never, if you're a true fan, you would never recommend their one-hit wonder. You would flex and be like, "This is a deep cut. Nobody else knows it's awesome, and it is a fantastic track." It'll probably be a fantastic track as well, but you're not going to go to that one-hit wonder because you're just reinforcing that exact perception of that band. You want to introduce your daughter to, like, this awesome band that nobody else appreciates.
Well, see, here's the thing you're just not seeing is there's men, see, and their behavioral traits, and then see there's women.
dude.
I think that the president of the AHA fan club, if it's a female, might only know that one song.
Just has that one song downloaded and it's just on repeat.
Whereas you're never, that whole album is going to be death to you because that's the one that came from. So we're going to get something off a mixtape that or a demo tape,
a B-side from an EP. Yeah, absolutely. So that right, and that was one of the second times through. I'm like, that's stupid. A real fan wouldn't do that, and I understand that's a silly criticism on my part, but it's still a criticism that I'm happy to air.
All right, fair enough. Is that it? Is that your big complaint? Is that you were just taken out by the not true to lifeness of the writers?
No, Jade, the black female student, she punches Ryan. She then kicks him in the face. Probably multiple times, but he has at least 2 wounds on his face. So she swung once and then did a series of kicks. At least one of them made contact with his face.
Hundreds of witnesses.
And at the end of episode 2, she's walking home from school.
Yeah. Now that enraged.
And Ryan, whose crime was having a knife that Jamie got possession of, is in a police van for conspiracy to commit murder. He was the one that was attacked by Jade. So
see, these things that are annoying you, that's why I liked this film. I think that's exactly what would happen because societal reasons.
And that's what I put, right? I put unintentional commentary on unequal treatment,
yes.
Question mark.
Well, you say unintentional, but I'm just not so sure. There's a lot of things shown, not said in that movie that, again, it's not a Rorschach test exactly, but right. I mean, I think a person who liked that aspect of society wouldn't have shown it. They'd have tried to cover it up or something, but they didn't. They showed this unhinged girl beat the snot out of this little white kid, and nothing happened to her except somebody had a nice talk to her with her about her feelings.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm enraged. That's probably exactly what would happen.
And Ryan got ridiculed.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
You got banged by a girl, you sausage.
Exactly.
Wonderful.
So again, that's why I want to draw a hard line between the film itself and then what all these other people are saying about it.
As a quick aside, I really wish they would provide American subtitles because their lingo, I'm sure it's true to rural northern England, but my God, there's moments where I'm just like, I'm going to have to use context clues on this one.
Well, that's where
y'all speak American weird.
Watching a lot of Monty Python as a kid helped.
Sure, I bet.
All right, well, those are all very interesting. I could see why they may take you out of the story, but it just didn't do that for me. And a lot of it, as I'm listening to you, and as I said, a lot of it is because you were expecting a more prototypical story about what cops are and what justice is, and they were just showing you a mess, I thought, and I think it was kind of intentional.
The writers also think that the viewers are idiots. So in that second episode, the camera's going through, and in multiple classrooms, we hear teachers make a point of like, okay, we're going to turn on a video now. And they also have a teacher who's like coming and going as he pleases sort of thing.
Yeah.
He wasn't there, right? Mr. Malik.
Yeah.
And so later in the episode, right, just in case you as the viewer didn't catch this, the detective then says, and you're going to like this one also, he says, does this look like anyone's learning anything in here? It just looks like a fucking holding pen. Videos in every class. Mr. Malik just walking in and out when he wants. And so, like, they need to point this out to you, in case, because you're on your phone the whole time, and so you didn't actually observe the fact that all this was happening. And so we need to explain it in plain English. At the same time, yeah, absolutely. The schools are trash, and industrialized education. I mean, you know where I am on this. Like, I couldn't agree more. But this also leads to some absolute painful irony, because you have the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, Keir Starmer. I guess that's how you pronounce it, something like that. He spoke from the floor of Parliament
about this movie.
Yes.
Oh, let's save that then. We're not there yet.
Okay.
We're not there yet.
But that, right? We'll put a pin in that. But like, remember that of
Yeah.
like the criticism is that, because you mentioned it earlier, right? Is that they videos in every class as a criticism of nobody's learning here. Does it look like anybody's learning? They're just watching videos.
Well, yeah. I mean, the schools you and I went to were holding pens / indoctrination centers / daycare too. It's just like worse now. And I do agree it was slightly clumsy when they said that rather than showing it. But I do like that what I saw was clearly intended. They were trying to show me that school is a big part of this problem. Public schools and the horror show that they are is a big part of whatever societal problem we're trying to dissect here.
And this show is a parade of tell don't show. There's a way they could have made this series in a way that actually showed the parts that were interesting to viewers, but instead everything was just told. It's told to us in the therapy session. It's told to us in interviews. It's told to us. It's always, we never see it. We just hear about it from characters telling us what previously happened. You could have even kept the one, like the real-time aspect within each episode and still solve this problem. You just change it so that these days precede the murder. The murder should have happened at the end of episode 3. The first episode would be, here's Jamie at home with his family, right? Maybe interacting with his. The second episode will be Jamie at school with his friends and interacting there, right? And including with Katie. And then the next episode could be whatever led up. It could be that night that leads up to him killing Katie, and then the next day could be like the morning of the interrogation or something like that. Ideally, it'd be longer, right? You'd have like 6 episodes or something like that. But then you could actually show as opposed to tell.
Right, but they're trying to. I don't know. You could tell a story like that, but it would be a different story.
What do you think they are trying to do?
It's a why. Why did this happen? They're trying to go backward, which means you need to start with the crime and then go backwards.
So what's the why? Why did Jamie do it?
Well, I think to the show's credit, they don't give you an answer. They give you glimpses into possibilities and let you draw your own conclusions. I saw at least suggested possible targets for the blame of the crime, parenting, the stability of the family, society in general, economics, maleness versus femaleness, the toxic online influencers like Tate, etc., social isolation of kids, bullying. And again, I think that when it was all said and done, the 2 primary culprits were these wretched schools where in normal evolution in society, kids are going to spend their day around a whole bunch of differently aged people. And what we do is send them into these Prussian-style prisons with 1 adult authority figure and 30 of your peers, and you socialize with them and you're propagandized by the other. And then you sort of raise yourselves when the teacher's not looking. And that's just, completely inorganic and awful. So the schools and then the online situation, which is that on steroids, because where if it's the 1950s and your kid's upstairs in their room, they're reading a book. And now they're entering this Narnia-like world where it's just a Lord of the Flies environment where kids are raising other kids, and they don't know how to do that because they're just children and they're insane. They're little psychopaths, and they've got this incredibly toxic online world that the parents just don't know anything about. And so you get this double whammy of not getting input from your parents or anybody else, and then you're getting this toxic online input, which is just making you miserable and psychopathic.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was glad that they showed you the angry dad who's sort of ashamed of his kid because he's not good at football and he doesn't know how to express that. Yeah. And, was that a possible reason? And then they show you a clearly loving two-parent family.
Yep.
With all this noxiousness. And then the detective's kid, I thought it was great that he was included in there because he's an incel too, and he's getting bullied all the time too. And his dad and his mom are broken up. And he hardly ever sees his dad except when he's calling him to try and invent a sickness so he doesn't have to go to school that day because it makes him miserable.
Yeah.
But he didn't commit a murder, and Jamie did, so like how much of each influence are you supposed to try and project onto the reason why Jamie did what he did?
Right.
And then you've got the element of the wretched behavior by the girls themselves. I mean, bullying doesn't just go one way. And, I'm not trying to say you should grab a knife and kill these people, but it's not like this girl didn't participate in the sociopathic behavior that led to her own demise. It was horrible what she did.
Wait, to what degree? She denied him and she posted a couple emojis.
We only know we only know a snippet.
Sure, but I mean that's he did his best to paint her in the worst light possible to the psychologist, and that wasn't a lot of ammunition. Like a couple of 22s is all that I saw.
I just assume this is like any other school environment where it's this massive social hierarchy and shit rolls downhill. And this girl had just been embarrassed because she exposed herself via pics to somebody, and that trust was betrayed. And so now she's feeling like terrible, so she takes it out on this kid who's below her in the pecking order. I mean, again, these are animals.
Well, and I think that so for as much as there's like, it seems like that. Correct me if I'm wrong. It seems like the people who are really big fans of this think that it's phenomenal criticism of incels, the manosphere, misogynists. Like, this is great. It dismantles them. It shows them in a true light. Finally, we have a proper representation of what bad men look like. Is that a fair assessment of the people who are big fans of this?
I'm going to pause and say yes, because that was all I wanted to say about the story before we got to
the meta commentary.
The people talking about this, oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah, they...
By the way, the people talking about this include the creators.
I know. I'm still going to insist that the damn piece of digital faux celluloid be allowed to speak for itself, regardless of the stupidity of the creators. Let's let me show a couple of stills. I was watching some dumb show in the UK like Today, or some kind of a dumb morning show where they've got some blonde and some dude, and they talk about the issues of the day in just the dumbest possible way. You know the show. You've seen the show.
Sure, yeah.
And they're talking about this film in their dumb way, and they have... Maybe it's the co-writer. I didn't recognize the guy, but somebody involved in the production.
Stephen Graham is the short one that stars as the father.
This is yeah. And then he's got a co-writer, and I don't know what he looks like.
I don't remember.
This might have been that guy, or might have been a producer. I don't know. And then they invite on a female psychiatrist and a female sociologist or something, and so they pile on about the message you're talking about. This is just a toxic white masculinity thing, and they're piling on this in droves.
This is the lesson you're supposed to learn from this this show.
And I thought about just playing the whole segment I saw. It was like 15 minutes, but I decided I'd stab myself in the eyes and ears if I did. So instead, I'm just going to show you 2 slides that they showed to educate the parents, because they're not up on what's going on when your kids are online. So so be on the lookout on your kids' devices, because we're really just trying to spark conversations. That's what needs to happen. See, if you see this, it's a problem. These are incel emojis. You got the kidney beans. That's bad. They didn't say why. You got the dynamite, and that's for exploding societal paradigms, you see. And then a pill, that's a red pill, even though it's not. And apparently this number 100 doesn't mean I agree with you completely. It has something to do...
using it wrong this whole time.
It has something to do with that 80-20 issue that they were talking about in the movie.
Multiple times.
So that's the level... This is for the parents. We're trying to educate here. you here.
Yeah, be on the lookout.
So there was that, and then this one, because you see these emojis, these aren't innocent. You think they're talking about it's snowing outside, but no, that means cocaine.
Sure.
That's cocaine.
Yeah.
And if you see a horsey, it's not because little girls love horsey. It means because your daughter's in a K-hole.
This is the same stupid stuff as what we encountered in like 2018, 2019, when like the okay hand sign
That's
was
right.
like,
That's
oh
right.
no.
That's
or like
right.
even a thumbs up was like, oh, that's a white supremacist dog whistle. Everything's some stupid dog whistle.
Charles, anytime you've ever seen anybody give a thumbs up, it means because they secretly want to put it up your butt. It's all a plot. You just don't know the code.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess I'll react more appropriately next time I get a thumbs up then.
So yeah, that was all dumb.
Yeah.
So once I saw how I assume this is everybody, mainstream, left, Keir Starmer. Once I saw how they were portraying the movie, I all of a sudden understood why my right-wing silosphere was so pissed off about it, because I am not interested in hearing how we just have a toxic white masculinity problem. And once we solve that, I mean, basically society is just fine. But again, I don't think the movie or the 4-part series, I don't think it tells that story. I think it tells a much more complex and real story. I give them serious downgrades for sort of overlooking the immigrant problem in 2025 or whatever. But on the other hand, if I was to be their lawyer, it's like not every story has to tell every problem. And we do have a massive problem in how we're raising kids, because we're raising them in a completely alien, not appropriate to society or their species way, where we're throwing them in these propaganda dungeons and then leaving them on an island being educated by nobody but themselves and wondering why they turn into the Lord of the Flies sociopaths. And we do need to have that conversation, because it ain't right. Parents should have never foisted off their responsibility for their kids to schools in the first place. It was lazy. They're expecting, right-wingers don't do this, but left-wingers expect the schools to teach their kids about sex. I don't want to have, that's icky. I don't want to have that kind of relationship with my child. Well, you kind of have to. It's your job to educate this person and get them to grow up healthy and happy and not insane.
I don't know where to jump in on that.
Right in the middle.
Certainly. Well, and they're trying to add to it, right? Like this is an attempt to pour gasoline on that fire. They're first off, they're identifying a problem that exists as a sliver. They talk about like this. They use the word epidemic. Who is it that used the word epidemic? I think it's the creator, the Stephen Graham. He's done a lot of interviews. He was also in Snatch.
Right.
Yeah. But he uses the word epidemic of young men stabbing girls to death. He specifically gives the timeline of over the past 10 years. We've seen an epidemic of knife crime amongst young lads up and down the country. And for me, there were certain instances that really stuck out where young boys, and these are young boys, they're not men, were killing young girls. This to me seems like satanic panic crap. If you go back and you look, and I've done a fair bit of research on this now. In the past 10 years, there have been 6 instances. It's actually 5, because one of them was a boy who likes to pretend that he's a girl. Mm-hmm. So in reality, it's 5 instances of boys under the age of 18 killing girls that are under the age of 18 across all of, I don't know the different territories between what's England, what's Britain, what's United Kingdom, and yada, yada. But England, there's been 5 cases in the last 10 years. And as far, it's difficult to do research on this because oftentimes there's not a lot of information about the perpetrators of these crimes.
Right.
But from the information that exists, none of them were radicalized online. The one that was sort of radicalized online didn't happen until after the show started production. It was already written. And I think like it's a little bit of bad timing on the part of this, because this, like, in the same month that the show started production is when that, what is it called? When the Southport stabbings happened, and you had that kid go to like that Taylor Swift dance class and stab people. And so by the time it came out, people thought that this was supposed to be some representation of that. It wasn't originally. And there are definite overlaps. There's definitely moments, like there's one of the perpetrators followed a girl and was caught on CCTV following her for like 45 minutes before finally attacking her. Except there's huge differences. That girl is walking with a male companion through that 45 minutes. He went inside to like grab a slice of pizza. That's when the perpetrator attacked her. And the kid that was inside grabbing pizza immediately runs out and tries to save her. He also ends up getting stabbed, sort of thing. So like all of these, first off, that would portray a boy in a heroic light. And you're muted. And we don't have anything like that in this. I think almost every boy is portrayed as being dumb and kind of useless, bad at their job, whether it's on... The detective's supposed to be portrayed as being good at his job, but I think ultimately there's enough there to...
They didn't show that. They showed a really bad detective.
and he's also a failed father who doesn't want to be a father.
Right.
And so when you have the prime minister advocating to have this shown in all the schools across Britain, first off, it's that irony, because the show itself is like, they shouldn't just be sitting down watching videos, and they're like, we should have them sit down and watch this video. And so like there's no, it's not an epidemic, especially when you contrast it with the fact that at least like on average it's something like 30 girls a year kill themselves in Britain. Yeah. Like, and that's per year. So over the course of this 10-year thing, 30 girls are going to kill themselves, and twice that many boys.
And it's an enormous part of the same problem, because as Jonathan Haidt won't shut up about, it's these phones and the social media thing that's turning these little girls into creatures that hate themselves.
Yes. Well, and I think that especially the hate themselves part with boys, right? When you see how Jamie is portrayed in this, in this show, his family is the happiest when he's gone. This is like, it's on that. The last episode is just a little bit of the Scrooge Christmas Carol, right? Where you get to see the family without Jamie, and they're in the car singing, having a good time to it was Jamie that was keeping us down, but now things are great. If your life can be great as long as you don't have that son around. And
I don't know. I'm primed to see that message if people are sending it, and I didn't see it in that scene. What I did see is a sullen, withdrawn, hate-filled daughter on her goddamn cell phone for the first 50.
See, it's a Rorschach test.
I know, and I think that's kind of a thing that in its credit, that if it just shows us stuff and people see different things. But I thought it was a miracle that they, through the interaction and the story from the past, the AHA fan club, they drew that young girl from finally taking her eyes off her phone and joining in the family, finally at the tail end of that car ride. But for most of it, she's just this sullen, hate-filled, withdrawn thing.
But she's fine. She's a good kid. She's not the problem. I mean, yes, she has a nose ring.
Hey, right? I think she's the problem.
Well, the nose ring is a little bit of but the creators wouldn't think that, right? That's not their intention. That's very much through our lens.
I feel like this is one of these weird things where, like, have you ever read a book that was really good and then you went and looked up the author and they're just like these psychopaths? How did you produce something that was decent?
I get that more with music,
right?
Like,
yeah, exactly.
I avoid getting to know those.
Yeah,
musicians.
You don't want to.
No, and this definitely reinforces that, right? So in the same interview, one of the creators, Graham, he goes on to say, and that beautiful saying, "It takes a village to raise a child." Right?
It takes a village, so let's ship them off to a government school instead.
Right. Yes, absolutely. And he goes on, Here is where he proclaims what the purpose of the show is. I just wanted to create something that kind of looked at it from that perspective, but also looked at it like, look, maybe we are all slightly accountable in some way. Be that the parents, be that the school, be that government, community, society. And okay, like I get that, but I don't think the show did a very good job of portraying that. And I think it did an even worse job of suggesting that there's answers to any of those. And I realize it's not their job to necessarily propose an answer, but I think especially when it comes to the issue of parents, I think the show sends the message. And if you're going to be showing this to the doughy brains of 12 and 13-year-olds, it essentially, and correct me if I'm wrong, is you're going to fail as a parent. There's nothing you can do. You can be a peaceful parent and your son will be a monster. Your dad, in fact, if anything, the message is it's better to be an abuser who beats the crap out of your son, and then your son will at least grow up to be a reasonably good person. He's not going to murder anybody. He's not going to commit any crimes because the father had never been in a police station before. But his dad beat the crap out of him. So if you want a good kid, you need to beat the crap out of him.
Oh, you cynical, cynical thing. There was no internet when that young boy was growing up.
And that's what he goes on to say.
I think the message, forget that guy. Look, once
No,
I
no,
saw
no, right?
once I saw how the left and the mainstream were treating this thing, I made it a point not to seek out what this Stephen Graham guy had to say. But look at the other way. I think the lesson of this, I could easily try and get people I know and care about to watch this film and say if they're dumb and their Rorschach brain isn't working right. The point of the film is to encourage more one-on-one in-person experiences with your family and everybody else and spend way less time in the toxic landfill that is online. Isn't that a good message you could easily glean from this film?
So, sure, except violent crime, homicides are down in England since the internet came about.
That's weird.
They peaked in 2003, and since then they've declined. There was about a 5-year gap where they sort of ticked up a little bit, but since then they've come down again in the past 3 years. Yeah. Let me see. Yeah, if you look at a 5-year graph, I don't know if you want to add show notes or something like that. It's funny because if you look, there's lots of graphs from the UK that's from 2003 to now sort of thing. And so it's it's continuously falling. But if you go back before 2003, it was steadily climbing. But when this Graham guy was Jamie's age, when he was 13, homicides per capita were a bit higher than they are right now. Whether it's internet, whether it's immigrants, whether it's knives, whatever it is,
I feel like you just have to look at each particular homicide and try and figure out what is this a drug thing? Is this a man and wife thing? Is
this is the Dostoevsky thing, right?
Yeah.
A happy family is always happy for the same reason, but a miserable family is always miserable for a unique reason. And that's true for these stabbings as well. And so when they're we're going to try and assess why these stabbings are happening, it's always different. You can't possibly make a story about one kid and say, this is why these stabbings are happening. But for you to zero in on incel culture is the most retarded reason to zero in on, because there's zero indications that had anything to do with any of these.
I would zero in on it just because, speaking of show notes, I'll include a piece I wrote about it recently about what we're doing to young boys.
Yeah,
we are feminizing them. We are telling them they're toxic. We are telling them they were born with a evil color of skin. Yeah. We are trying to say that their natural outgoingness is something that needs to be medicalized. So we're pumping them full of Ritalin and whatever other psychotropic nonsense we're doing. So I think we are poisoning young boys, and calling them incels is just, add another log on the fire. And we're not doing girls any favors either, because you're not going to make their lives better by poisoning the other half of the population that they're supposed to engage in society with.
No.
That's not good.
Suicide rates amongst both boys and girls are increasing in the UK. They're increasing at a faster level amongst girls than they are for boys. Even though, like, right now, about what I have the number, like about 60% of suicides are boys right now. It used to be as much as 68%. And so girls are unfortunately catching up in this statistic. But this show, I think, reinforces this idea of like, boys just don't have that much value in our society.
Right.
We're not, and there's a moment. It's where the two detectives are having a conversation at the school, and the female detective, she says, "Do you know what I don't like about this? The perpetrator always gets the front line. Quote, a man raped a woman. We followed Jamie's brain around this entire case. Katie isn't important. Jamie is. Everyone will remember Jamie. No one will remember her. That's what gets me." That's a little weird because insert Norm Macdonald joke right there, right?
Right.
Yeah, well, you know what bothers me about it? It's the murder.
It's
the
the
murder is
murder.
what bothers me. Yeah. But at the same time, this is literally like, first off, these characters at this moment their only purpose. Well, there's two purposes. One is to find the knife. The other is to figure out Jamie's motive. So what are you going on about? Of course you're going to be like
Right.
trying to look inside Jamie's brain. The next is, this isn't even true. When trying to do research for this, I don't look up the name of the perpetrator. I look up the name of the victim, and there's frequently Wikipedia pages for the murder of so-and-so. And on there, you can find a subsection of like, here's the perpetrator. The perpetrator is a subsection of the victim themselves. So it's not even true on its face. Lastly, this is exactly what this show is doing. And it's sort of one of those things of like pointing out a stupid thing you're doing so it's not stupid. No, I'm sorry. Like, that's not a legitimate excuse. If you're doing a stupid thing, it's still stupid, even if you know it's stupid and you say it's stupid. The other detective pushes back a little bit, like, yeah, but at the same time, like, that's one of her big moments, in addition to her being the character to drop the Andrew Tate's name.
Yeah, she hardly got any lines, man. Quit trying to take more away from her.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, well, and that's the thing, right? There's this isn't a character. There's no character study in this,
No,
at all. Like, Jamie's completely absent from two episodes. He's extremely pinnacle. He's the centerpiece of one of the episodes, and he gets tossed around in the first episode. But like, there's no character study in this whatsoever. None of the characters really have time to be learned about or developed. Even the dad only appears in two.
Yeah, that's a perfect segue to the last thing I want to talk about.
Yeah.
Not sure whether I should blame the film for this or not. But when people were talking about it, the few things I saw, every word betrayed the fact that they sort of think of every human in society as a tabula rasa, interchangeable thing.
Yeah.
And what we need to be talking about are all these various influences on these things. And if we can get that cocktail right, then we'll have a peaceful society and we won't raise any monsters. The whole thing is about which of these societal elements turned this tabula rasa into a monster. And I think that's a poor analysis, because we are not tabula rasas. We're all unique individuals before you add on the nature part of the whole thing, or the nurture part. And I that's why I really liked the fact that young Adam, the detective's kid, was fairly prominently portrayed. You kind of had to look for him. He's getting bullied there, and then you're seeing that his family life is just garbage, and you're seeing how he can't get a girl, and you're seeing he's not, he's never going to go kill anybody.
Right.
And he's got it way worse than Jamie does.
Presumably. He's probably in a similar boat to Jamie, right? We don't see the bullying that happens to Jamie, but they talk about him getting spit on and things like that.
But you can see, look at the man's shoulders as opposed to Jamie. Jamie is keyed up and amped up. This kid is not that.
A doormat.
Yeah,
he almost, I don't know if they did it on purpose, but they like his inability to look his dad in the eye when they're having that conversation, and his onlineness almost seems like they kind of wanted to portray him as being a bit autistic. I don't know if that's purposeful or not.
You could easily read it that way, but I just saw it as he hates his father.
Yeah,
Twice he
yeah.
needled his dad. Is like, oh, you got somewhere to be? You know, you want to get out of here? Because like he obviously thinks his dad doesn't have any time for him because he probably doesn't.
And that's another, right? The detective being just an incompetent boob.
Yeah, he's terrible.
His son needed to come in and tell him what was actually happening. Your little 13-year-old.
I love that.
Perhaps on the spectrum son. By the way, like,
I wasn't going to say anything, but I couldn't stand you bumbling around out there.
Yeah. And so I don't know. I feel like the meta criticism of it, or meta analysis of it, always seems to fall back to that whole every bad thing is caused by the thing I already didn't like.
Yeah, of course.
Trope,
of course.
right. And which I guess is to its credit, but I think it does such a poor. I don't read it that way. I see it as more of almost a discouragement from people having kids, and like don't have kids, because no matter what you do, it's going to go bad.
And even if you do it right, oh my Lord, what an incredibly challenging and difficult and impossible thing. Why bother? Oh, and it's expensive too. Yeah, no, you're right. I hate that it's adding more fuel to that fire. We already have a population decline problem.
And the very end, right? Like the culmination of the entire show, the final words are the dad saying to himself, well, this teddy bear that's acting as a stand-in for his son, is, "I'm sorry, son. I should have done better." Roll credits. That's the end. That's what we as the viewer are supposed to take away from it. This father should have done better. Tell me how.
I can only think of one thing. He shouldn't have bought him. Maybe you buy him the computer and all that.
The sneakers. Oh, okay.
But you don't let him just spend 6 hours up in his room every night alone, because that's how you raise. That is how you raise a monster. You isolate them and throw them in a snake pit.
But there's no evidence of that. There's nobody, first off, with homicide rates dropping in the UK since the internet became more of a thing, and none of the six this movie or this show is trying to pattern itself after having any evidence that they followed that pattern into being a killer. And so I get that, and I think I agree in that's terrible. That's terrible parenting,
right? But yeah, forget killer. Well, I'm concerned with way more than just how many murders are happening. I want adults to be raised through their childhood, happy. And I just don't think locking your kid up in a room and letting him, do whatever they do. I don't think that's the way you get there.
Well, and I think that when you have a show that there's like an undercurrent of you don't, if anything, you have a net negative value to society. Yeah. Is going to push people further into the arms of people like Andrew Tate. It is to isolate them and make them feel unwanted and unvalued. And then all of a sudden they hear the siren song of someone who's saying like, "I value you. You are a good person. You are capable of amazing things." This show says there's a good chance you're going to be a monster. There's a good chance that if you have a kid, he's going to be a monster. Doesn't matter what you do. You can be a peaceful parent. You can be there and try and love them as much as you possibly can. But if you just react slightly wrong when they're trying to play the goalkeeper, boom, they murder someone.
Yeah, and they'll pattern match your behavior towards the shed that one time into stabbing to death some young girl.
Yeah. Even though the only person that we see go into a violent rage and attack a person would be the Jade character at the school.
Right. Who was let off with "Oh, I'm sorry, you're so sad."
Yeah, we'll make sure that you get some therapy. Aww.
Yeah, it just shows how wretched these government factory machines are. So yeah, before I'd seen the film, I rated it about a 0. And then after I saw it, I gave it about a 7. And then I went and saw what people were saying about it, including the creators, and I got it downgraded to like a 4 maybe now. So my advice, if we haven't ruined this whole thing for you already, if you go watch this 4-part series, Adolescence, don't listen to what anybody else says about it except me and Charles here.
Okay, right, the best moment in the whole thing though is during that therapy session when like Jamie gets all quiet there, and then he turns to the psychologist and says, "Look at you, all hopeful." Like I'm gonna say something important, and it's like it's the only surprising moment,
Right.
and that moment is phenomenal acting, and that's not a surprise that they use a lot of it in the trailer
Yeah.
for just being.
Yeah.
Right, they don't use the words, but look on his face and everything. He just slips into being a psycho for that little moment, and it's easily. I wish that they'd just done some surprising things, like if they were in the interrogation room at the end of the first episode and he just confessed to his dad right then. That would have been an interesting surprise. I'd be interested to see how the show proceeded. But everything just like marched along as I kind of expected it, except that one moment. And I appreciated that surprise. I don't know if it's worth the 4 hours of watching, though.
Well, it's a Rorschach test. You might see more of what I saw and less of what Charles saw. It was definitely interesting, even if you want to use it as a critique of things rather than... Even if you want to hate watch it, it's worth watching.
Yes. It'll make you feel one thing or another.
Yeah, I felt a lot of things. Ooh, I hate those cops. I hate those cops. All right, we should probably wrap up. Do you have any final parting words?
I do not.
All right, buddy. Well, thanks for doing this. Yeah, go ahead.
If you're going to watch something on Netflix, check out Tires. That is lovely. It has a more emotional range every 5 minutes than Adolescence does in 4 hours.
That's probably true.
You've seen it?
I like Shane
so
Gillis.
good.
I like that show.
Yeah.
All right, buddy. Thanks for doing this, and thanks for indulging us, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see you next time on Haman Nature.